What is up, YouTube? My name's Eric Johnson, and welcome to my channel. In November of 2019, my partner and I bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,100 square foot fixer-upper condo in San Diego, California. We spent nearly $40,000 in the entire quarantine doing my first ever DIY home renovation. Throughout the renovation process, I found a passion for creating, and after the year of universal reevaluation that was 2020, we sold the house and I bought a 2020 Ford Transit 148 extended with all-wheel drive so that I could convert it into a full-time off-grid home of my dreams. I'll be documenting and sharing everything about this DIY van conversion. If you'd like to follow along, by all means, hit that subscribe button. Okay guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to install a Flatline Van Co low-profile roof rack on a 2020 Ford Transit with extended length and high roof. It's all modular, entirely DIY friendly. You can do this with one person and it takes about 8 hours, which is my experience. And that was with myself filming as well. It's definitely going to be a lot faster if you do have 2 people. That way you don't have to kind of climb down a ladder, walk around, go up another ladder. You could just have 2 people on either side, and that seriously probably would cut down, I don't know, like on 30% of the project time. So the tools that you're going to need for this job are super simple. It's really just like a utility knife and or a chisel. I found the chisel to be a little easier. You're also going to need a caulking gun, a adjustable crescent wrench, and then optionally you could get a wireless drill, and that'll kind of help speed up. Just you have a ton of screws and hardware that you're just drilling in or screwing together, so kind of an optional thing to sort of make things go faster. Links to everything that I'm describing will be in the video description below, so if you have any questions about the tools or the products that I'm using. And guys, be sure to stick around until the end of this video. That is where I will go into detail as to why I chose the Flatline roof rack, the considerations that I took, other options that I looked into, and I'll give a financial breakdown as to how much this entire project cost. So the very first step in installing a rack is you actually have to expose the factory mounting points, and those are actually just covered by these sort of taped end caps. And you can use a utility knife, but I did find that a wood chisel to be easier to maneuver in these tighter spaces. You just need to kind of cut around the paint, and then once you've cut all the way around that paint or painted seal, you can start to pry up the adhesive patch. It's just foam, nothing hard that would kind of like damage the blade, but yeah, you just got to peel it up, and then that will actually expose the mounting point. Now you're going to want to pre-assemble the little mounting feet and the hardware that's necessary. So it's a lag bolt and then kind of a padded washer. I figured I might as well do that while not standing on a precarious ladder. Also, you don't want to completely tighten these down yet. You're still going to need these little foot pads to have a bit of flexibility or wiggle room for the next step. So now we're actually mounting the first kind of outrigger rail to the mounting feet. It's just like a slightly different mounting screw, and then a lock nut that you're using. So just the 2 components. So because this outermost rail, the outriggers, they're made of 2 components, you do need to kind of bridge them together to give it a bit more rigidity. So they do give you this little connector bracket. It's just connected with 4 screws and again 4 more lock nuts. So yeah, a lot of screws. So what I'm using here, this is a prefab template from Impact Designs, I believe. Bought it on eBay, designed specific for the Ford Transit. How we want to install it's going to be right here. The inside, of course, matches, it's your 14x14 fan opening, but the outside actually also matches the front of our fan. Our rearmost rail is just going to be right here, but this does let us know kind of what our clearance is. So anyways, let's go get a rail. How not to fall off a ladder. Now, when I first bought this, I thought the way that these rails would work is that you were gonna mount them vertically like so that you had all the support. So they actually go sideways. And then you do need to have a little bit of adjustment here to make sure that you can fit this. Pretty straightforward at this point. Oh, it's hot. Oh, Eric, why you leave the bucket so far? Oh. I'm melting. Holy crap, that rail's hot.
Whoo-wee. Should have done this in the morning, but no, I was too sore, too tired, could not, woo! Wow.
Yeah, I suppose as like a general rule of thumb, I probably wouldn't recommend working on your roof rack in the middle of summer at noon, maybe in the afternoon. But anyways, here we're working on the front air dam or wind fairing, and it did come with its own hardware, but I had major issues with the included lock washers and or the length of the screws that they provided, because the combination of the two, you really just didn't have the clearance to actually thread into the included economy, or the T-nuts is what they're called, economy T-nuts. You typically preload those into an extruded aluminum like this, but I decided to undo everything so that instead of using those lock washers, I would just instead use a thread locking fluid as the way to try and prevent these from unscrewing in the future. I don't know if it'll necessarily hold, but I think it'll be just fine. And with the removal of those lock washers, it actually then slid on beautifully. I didn't really have much resistance at all. It was night and day. As you can tell, I am kind of babying it here, but honestly, it went on 10 times easier without those lock washers.
Heck. Yes. Safety first, kids. Holy crap. Oh, that's heavy. Wow. It gets heavy. Okay. Heck yeah. Okay. Oh, that was not what I wanted. Also, right over the antenna. I guess I don't really use it anyway. Oh, it's so hot. Can we just get one bolt in? Oh. Okay. There we go.
So with all the rails and the front wind fairing installed, I'm just checking to make sure that my MaxxAir fans have enough clearance between where I've installed these rails. And so you need at least 8 inches behind your fan adapter and the next rail. And that's the last of the rough assembly. So now the next step is to weather seal all of the exposed mounting locations. As mentioned, we're using Dicor self-leveling sealant, and this was my first attempt. I had seen several people try and do kind of like this cross weave pattern where they intentionally go wide. Honestly, it does look absolutely horrendous.
Holy cow. Doing this and trying to film it at the same time. That's nuts. Trying to get those B shots. Hopefully, ooh, better be careful with my hat.
So this was my first attempt, or the first pass at my first attempt. I did end up having to come in and fill in a number of spots, but as you can see, I did try and go all the way around just to try and weather seal as best as possible. This is the second go around. I did do a little bit better, and what I ended up deciding was to kind of just abandon that sort of zigzag pattern. Cosmetically, it's not like a big deal. No one's going to be up here and looking at this, but I just couldn't handle how ugly it was. So towards the end, I got a lot better, you'll see. But yeah, this was attempts 1 and 2. So I think this is my 6th one, and some advice I would give is when you cut your tube, cut it actually pretty wide. You want about 1/4 of an inch opening so that you can get a lot of material down without spending as much effort.
Yeah, and this is another one of those exposed ones, so we want to make sure we lay down a lot. Doesn't have to be all the way on the washer. That was bad. Okay.
Yeah, even with that flubber, I think this was still probably aesthetically one of the best jobs that I did, so don't have too high hopes.
Okay guys, thanks so much for sticking around until the end. If you're still here, I would greatly appreciate it if you give this video a like. But let's get into why I chose the Flatline roof rack. Yeah, I guess like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you know, the 3 options that I really looked at pretty seriously were Aluminess, Flatline Van Co, and then 100% DIY with extruded aluminum. Aluminess, you're seriously looking at a starting point for this size van was $3,300, and it goes up to almost $4 grand just for the base rack. On top of that, you have to pay for professional installation. Additionally, if you want to make any modifications to their rack, you have to pay extra. So that rack alone, like $4 grand. If you go extruded aluminum with like a brand like 80/20, I mean, it's a total range. It depends on how big you make the rack, how wide. That will dictate how much material you end up using. What's not immediately apparent is the connecting hardware. All of the, like just a single angle bracket for a 1 series extruded aluminum, it's like $5. And you're gonna need, I don't know, 20 of those, 30 of those. And so it's like quite quickly, you're adding actually a couple $100s for all of the hardware. And that doesn't include that you're gonna have to source some kind of a foot pad or riser for the rack as far as how your rack is gonna connect to the van itself, because you can't just drill direct. So all of these little components start to add up. And I think it's gonna be much closer to about $800-ish once you also include shipping, because Amazon shipping those extruded aluminum, it's not gonna be covered in Amazon Prime. You're gonna pay like $150 for them to ship it to you. 80/20, of course you have full customization. So yes, you can definitely make it fit your roof layout with all of whatever components you're gonna have, but it's also just a lot more complicated because it's entirely up to you to figure out, you know, what components you're gonna need and who you're gonna source those components from. Flatline Van Co gave kind of like almost an all-in-one. Like honestly, the only thing that I needed besides some tools was just, like I said, die-core shiplap, and that was it. So the only unexpected obstacles that I ran into was with the included hardware. There were too few washers, and I'm sure that was just like a shipping snafu with my order. Not a huge deal. But then when I installed the front air dam, a wind fairing, but basically it serves as an air dam so that when you're driving, you don't hear just an obnoxious whistle. And just like I said, the hardware that came with that air dam, I don't think even remotely possible to thread those in and have any adjustability. And it wasn't that big of a deal. I just didn't use the included lock washers, and I just opted to use some Loctite thread locking fluid to hold those screws in. We'll see if that works, but I think it will. As far as the financial breakdown, this project for the materials, it was the Flatline Van Co low profile rack, like I said, for the 148 extended high roof, combined with that front air dam. That total came to $1,735. Add on to that, I needed 1 tube of die-core self-leaven sealant. At the time that I bought it, a single tube was $13, came out to $1,748, basically $1,750 all in, or 4.83% of my entire anticipated conversion budget. If you guys like this video, you'll probably like my next video, which is gonna be installing 2 Max Air fans, why I chose 2, and of course, how to install them. So stick around and hit that subscribe button. See you guys. You, buddy. You're coming with me. Oh my gosh. I drove and got tacos with this just sitting on my van and made it all the way back. Thankfully, it's a tiny town and I only went 35 miles an hour. Otherwise, I think I would have been toast. Anyways, wow. This really is the end now.